I need to tell you something that happened to me 6 days ago that has left me unable to sleep, unable to eat normally, unable to think about anything else. What I experienced wasn't a dream. It wasn't my imagination running wild from years of portraying Jesus on screen. This was the most terrifying and yet most beautiful encounter I've ever had in my entire life. And what Christ revealed to me about 4 specific places believers must physically go to in November 2025 will absolutely shatter everything you think you know about spiritual preparation and divine protection. I'm sitting here in my study right now at 4:47 in the morning and I can't stop shaking. The cross on my wall seems different somehow, heavier, more urgent. My hands are trembling as I try to speak these words because I know how impossible this is going to sound. People are going to think Jonathan has finally crossed the line between faith and fantasy, that playing Jesus for so many years has blurred something fundamental in my mind. But I'm telling you right now with everything in me, what happened to me last Thursday night was more real than this chair I'm sitting in. More real than the sound of me own voice. Before I go any further, I need you to do something for me. I need you to tell me in the comments right now where you are watching this from and what time. It is in your location because I have this overwhelming sense, this conviction that won't let me go. That this message is reaching exactly the people who need to hear it at precisely the right moment. The timing off when you clicked on this video, the circumstances that brought you here, none of it is coincidental. The Holy Spirit has orchestrated this divine appointment, and what I'm about to share with you could literally save your life in the months ahead. I also want to say this up front. If you're a true believer in Jesus Christ, if you've genuinely repented of your sins, if you have authentic saving faith and you're truly following Him, not just playing religious games, but actually walking with Him daily, please subscribe to this channel right now. What you're about to hear is going to challenge everything you've been taught about faith, obedience, and preparation. I need to know there are believers out there who are awake, who are watching, who are ready to respond when God gives specific instructions, even when those instructions seem strange or difficult. Let me take you back to last Thursday evening. We had just wrapped an incredibly intense filming session for The Chosen. It was one of those days where everything went wrong technically. Equipment failures, lighting issues, sound problems. We were running hours behind schedule and everyone on set was exhausted and frustrated. I had been trying to stay in character emotionally, trying to maintain that sense of peace and purpose that Jesus embodied. But by the end of the day, I was drained in every possible way. I drove home in silence. I didn't turn on the radio or any music. I just drove through the darkening streets feeling this weight pressing down on my chest that I couldn't explain. It wasn't depression exactly. And it wasn't just fatigue. It was something else. Something I'd been feeling building for weeks. This sense that something massive was approaching, something that was going to require more from believers than comfortable Sunday morning services and inspiring social media posts about faith. When I got home, I didn't even bother eating dinner. I just sat in my living room in the dark, staring at nothing, feeling this restlessness in my spirit that wouldn't let me settle. Have you ever had those moments where you can feel God trying to get your attention, but you are almost afraid to fully open yourself to whatever He wants to say because you know it is going to be something that disrupts your comfortable life? That's exactly where I was. Around 11:30 that night, I finally surrendered. I got down on my knees right there on my living room floor and I said out loud, "Lord, I know you're trying to tell me something. I know something is coming. I'm scared, but I'm listening. Whatever you want to show me, whatever you want me to do, I'm saying yes right now, even though I don't know what I'm agreeing to." The moment those words left my mouth, the atmosphere in my house completely changed. It wasn't gradual. It was instant and absolute. The air became thick, almost liquid, like I was suddenly underwater, but could still breathe. Every sound stopped. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant traffic noise. Even the sound of my own breathing seemed to vanish into this profound, holy silence. Then the temperature changed. It didn't get cold exactly, but there was this coolness that had nothing to do with physical temperature. It was like standing in the presence of something so pure, so other that everything earthly just fades into irrelevance. My heart started pounding so hard I thought I might be having a heart attack. But it wasn't fear causing it. It was recognition. Deep in my spirit, I knew what was about to happen. The light in my living room began to change. It started subtle, just a slight brightening of the shadows. But within seconds, it intensified into this golden glow that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. It wasn't coming from my lamps or from outside. It was just present, filling every corner of the room with this warm living light that made me want to weep and laugh at the same time. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't support me. Not because I was weak, but because the weight of holiness in that room was so overwhelming that my physical body couldn't handle it in a normal standing position. I remained on my knees, tears streaming down my face as the golden light grew brighter and more beautiful than anything I ever seen in any earthly sunrise or sunset. That's when I heard his voice, not with my physical ears, but resonating through every cell of my body, through my mind, through my spirit. It was the voice I'd been trying to portray for years. But hearing it in reality made me understand how inadequate any human representation could ever be. The love in that voice, the authority, the tenderness, the power, it was all there at once and it was directed at me personally. "Jonathan," he said, and hearing my name spoken by that voice made me realize I never truly heard my own name before. "What I'm about to show you will seem strange to many, but you must tell them exactly what you see. Lives depend on your obedience to share this message." I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. I just nodded, tears falling freely, now my whole body trembling with the weight of what was happening. "I'm listening, Lord," I finally managed to whisper. "I'll tell them whatever you show me." "Look up," he said gently. When I raised my eyes, my living room had completely vanished. I was no longer in my house. I was standing in what I can only describe as a place between heaven and earth, a threshold realm where the spiritual and physical worlds intersect. The ground beneath my feet was solid, but seemed to be made of compressed light, like crystallized glory. Above me, the sky was unlike anything that exists in our natural world. Swirling with colors that don't have names, shades of gold and silver, and something beyond purple that made my soul ache with longing. And there, walking toward me across this impossible landscape was Jesus himself. He looked exactly as I'd always imagined him, but infinitely more real, more present, more alive than any mental image or artistic representation could ever capture. His eyes held depths of compassion that seemed to contain all the suffering and all the joy of every person who had ever lived. When he smiled at me, it was like watching the sun rise for the first time in history. I fell forward, pressing my face to the ground that sparkled like diamonds beneath me. "Lord, I'm not worthy," I sobbed. "I've been pretending to be you for cameras, but standing here now, I realize I know nothing about who you really are." He knelt down beside me and placed his hand on my shoulder. The touch sent waves of love through my entire being that I still can't adequately describe. It was like being immersed in liquid peace, like every broken thing inside me was being held and healed simultaneously. "Stand up, my friend," he said softly. "What I'm going to show you is urgent, and we don't have much time." When I stood to my feet, he gestured toward the swirling sky above us. Suddenly, images began forming in that celestial canvas like scenes being projected on clouds. I could see the earth spinning slowly in space, but it wasn't the earth as we normally see it. This version pulled with streams of light and darkness, rivers of spiritual energy flowing between continents, connecting hearts and souls across vast distances. "Do you see it?" Jesus asked, his voice carrying both sadness and anticipation. I nodded, though I wasn't entirely sure what I was looking at. The streams of light seemed to represent something good, something holy, while the darker currents looked like spiritual pollution flowing between population centers. "The enemy has been preparing a series of coordinated attacks," Jesus said. And I heard something in his tone I'd never associated with him before. Strategic awareness, like a general assessing a battlefield. In November of 2025, there will be 4 specific moments when the spiritual atmosphere over certain locations becomes so toxic, so saturated with demonic activity that believers who remain in those places will face attacks unlike anything they've experienced before. As he spoke, the image of Earth began to zoom in on specific regions. 4 locations began glowing with a sickly pulsing red light that made Mr. Mock turn just looking at it. I could see what looked like storms of spiritual darkness gathering over these places, swirling with malevolent intent. "These attacks won't be primarily physical," Jesus continued, his eyes never leaving the scenes unfolding above us. "Though there will be physical manifestations, the real assault will be on the minds and spirits of my people. Fear, confusion, doubt, despair, suicidal thoughts, relationship destruction, spiritual blindness.
The enemy is gathering his forces to launch a concentrated offensive against believers in these 4 locations during 4 specific windows of time in November 2005. I felt ice running through my veins. Lord, why are you showing me this? I asked, my voice shaking. What can anyone do against that kind of concentrated evil? He turned to look at me directly. And the fire in his eyes was both terrifying and exhilarating. Because I'm not leaving my people defenseless. He said I'm going to tell you about 4 other places, 4 locations of spiritual refuge and empowerment where believers must go during those specific times. About those who obey and go to these places will not only be protected, they'll be equipped with spiritual authority and power they've never experienced before. But those who ignore this warning and remain in the danger zones will face battles they're not prepared for. The scene above us shifted about, and now I could see both the danger zones and what I somehow knew were the refuge locations. They appeared simultaneously like a spiritual map of spiritual warfare being laid out before me. I'm going to show you each location, both the places of danger and the places of refuge, Jesus said. And I'm going to tell you exactly when believers need to move and what they need to do when they get there. Are you ready to see this? I nodded. Although every part of me was trembling with the magnitude of what I was being shown.